Testing, testing, testing. I hope everybody's doing well. We're doing another live stream. I just need a moment to see if we are up and running properly. Let's give it a second. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys? Yes. Okay, we are good. All right, we are going to, and I thank everybody for joining, switch this to public, and there we go. Welcome once again. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I hope everybody is doing very well. Very sorry for 2 streams not going well. Technical difficulties galore. Which is always fun. But I do appreciate you guys being here very much. Please take a moment, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's give it some time and let's see who joins. And very sorry for the very fun technical delays. Let's give it some time. Let's see who joins us. And very sorry for, once again, very sorry for the technical difficulties. Let's give it a bit of time. Let's see who joins. Very sorry for the technical difficulties. I hope things are going better now. All right, I'm doing well. It's Poke. Wow, so you've got 3 different channels, which is awesome, by the way. Welcome. Thank you for being here. I'm looking forward to Poke. I'm looking forward to seeing you on March 28th between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. Like I said, if you get there around 8:30, we can do a quick unboxing video or Pokemon card video. You and I together before we start the actual event. So if that's something you're interested in, get there 8:30. If you have your family there with you, that'll be all the better. Really? So, real. And I know you said you might be bringing some family, which is great. We'll have the chip program set up. So, Real M Classic, when you say, yeah, I mean, there were many Native Americans who were Freemasons. In fact, the Oklahoma Masonic degree team is Oklahoma Indian Masonic degree team is an awesome part of Freemasonry and an awesome part of our Masonic history. So I very much look forward to. I've actually done some interviews with them, and several founding fathers were Freemasons. Um, 13 out of the 39 signers were. So yeah. I mean, America, Lil Goldfish, please hit like and subscribe. America is a country that has a history, some of it positive, some of it negative, but overall, I still think it's an incredible country, and I'm grateful that it's our neighbor. And I think that's also true. That wasn't a fart, that was me moving the wheelchair, I promise. It's also a country that I really love, so, and I love visiting it. I don't know who Dan is. I mean, when you say they removed his ring, some people will put in wishes in their will that they will be buried with their Masonic rings and regalia. Some will want it returned to their family. Some will ask that it be returned to their friends. I mean, or given back to the Masonic Lodge. Up to it's really up to every Mason to actually take the time in his will to explain what he wants done with his Masonic items, whether they be positive, whether it go to his family, whether it go to the lodge, whether he be buried with it, and those should be respected. But he has to be the one to explain what they are. So, um, Canon 031, all is well. I hope all is well with you also. And thank you so much for being here. I hope you'll take a moment, hit like and subscribe. To everybody who was with me before, very sorry for the technical difficulties. Fingers crossed it doesn't happen again. But as always, if it does, just know I'll be back on stream as soon as I can. So, I mean, and there have been many Métis Freemasons as well here. I mean, in terms of Indigenous Masons in general or First Nations, I think about, for example, Tecumseh, Chief Tecumseh. I think of Grant or Brant. I always get the name mixed up. Forgive me. The Mohawk tribal leader. I believe it was Joseph Brant. I can't make any promises, Mr. Keeps. Sometimes YouTube and sometimes the internet has a mind of its own. But hey, so be it. Chief Tecumseh is the one that most people think of in locally, and that's very true. Joseph Brant, was it? Forgive me for forgetting the name. Let me double check. Yeah, Joseph Brant was also a Freemason. Made a Freemason famously in England. What even is a Freemason? Honestly, are for act. And by the way, please hit the like button and please hit the subscribe button. You're not wrong. It's a social club. It's a social group. In many ways, it exists as a third space for men outside of work, outside of their family, to hang out and be in a space that is more for them, is not based so much on what they are contributing as to simply existing within that space. It's talked about a lot by like Robert Putnam. Now, there is also Freemasonry for women, like the Order of Women Freemasons, which absolutely provides that same third space for women who want to get away from their husbands. I don't believe he was. Hold on just one second, though. Let me double check. I don't believe, based on historical records, Lou Riel was not a Freemason. So, no, we're not crusading. Freemasonry is not here to tell anybody that the religion is correct or incorrect. It's not what it's all about. It's not what it's all about, to use the Canadian pronunciation. So, no. We are, but that is not a specific, that the Grand Architect does not refer to a specific God, Christian, Muslim, Jewish. Rather, every Mason is free to decide for himself what that Grand Architect is, what it means to be a Grand Architect, or what the Grand Architect is to them. Like for me, my Grand Architect is the rational nature of the universe as expressed through geometry. It'd be very hard to try to send that around the world in a crusading fashion. I suppose we could all crusade with um, what was I trying to say? It's one of those things where, like, I don't know how we crusade to promote the rational nature of the universe. I suppose we could all crusade, and instead of swords, we'd all have geometry textbooks or Euclid's elements, which, by the way, I suppose I'd rather have, I would rather crusade with a book of Euclid's elements than with a sword. That's a really great question, Real M Classic. So I would say the most common misconception about Freemasonry is, and honestly, this would solve 90% of the problems that presently exist. The biggest misconception about Freemasonry is that it is a there is a global leadership, right? Um, that is simply not the case. Freemasonry is decentralized. There is no single governing body that controls Freemasonry or tells Freemasons the rules that they are, under which they are to operate. That's not how Freemasonry works, right? And so that's why people will, for example, when they talk about conspiracy theories, they will say the top levels, the highest levels, the elites, the five families within Freemasonry. There is no global governing body for Freemasonry. There are jurisdictions, and each jurisdiction is sovereign, and each jurisdiction has authority within its area. So the Grand Lodge of Ontario has sovereignty within Ontario. It doesn't set rules for Masons anywhere else. If people understood that, it would help dispel these rumors about global control and global cabals, which don't exist. But also, and more importantly, it would it would stop people from, so from like P2 Masonic Lodge or whatever it is, it does something bad and people think it reflects on all of Freemasonry because they assume all of Freemasonry is under the same governing body, and that's simply not the case. So that is the biggest misconception about Freemasonry. There is no single governing body that controls Freemasonry at all. There is no secret council of elders. DK296, hit the like button and the subscribe button, and maybe I'll give shorter answers. No, that's not how it works. What is the purpose of Freemasonry? The purpose of, I've seen a Quran used, I've seen an eagle feather used, I've even heard of gems being used for Wiccan Freemasons. DK, there is no single purpose of Freemasonry. Every Mason needs to decide that for himself. Some will say the purpose of Freemasonry is to make good men better. I'm not a huge fan of that. But what I would say more in general, in my opinion, is the purpose of Freemasonry is no different than the purpose of getting together with your friends on a Friday night. It's about the belief that the world can be made better through the application of brotherly love, relief, it's about the belief that it's worth spending time with other people, and it is worth spending time with neighbors, community members, friends, and brothers. For me, the purpose is to try to build a better world through the application of brotherly love, relief, and truth. I will take it. I'm grateful if I look like Mark Wahlberg, because most people say I look ugly. No, I did not, because there's no secret council of anything, Mr. Keeps. Very sorry to disappoint. Would I define, Bikes Night, by the way, please hit like and subscribe. Would I define Freemasonry as an esoteric institution? Probably not. I mean, there are esoteric elements to Freemasonry, certainly, but I think the problem is esotericism has become too aligned with these ideas of, I even know what the right word is. These ideas of, like, mysticism or spirituality, none of which is the case, right? So you need to be really careful. I mean, it's esoteric in the sense that, um, it's esoteric in the same way that the recipe for Coca-Cola or Pepsi is esoteric, right? It's nothing mystical or spiritual or anything like that. It's simply trade secrets, if you want to put it that way. Yes, I got a big forehead. Please hit like and subscribe. Kevin, Freemasonry is not political. In fact, we are not allowed to discuss politics or religion within a Masonic lodge. So no, I could be sitting next to a Kamala supporter, like a Harris supporter, a Trump supporter, a Carney supporter, a Polyev supporter, or anything in between, and it would not matter. Freemasonry is not political. Everybody gets their own political beliefs. Um, in fact, you shouldn't really even be asked about that when you're joining. Now, if you are actively political, which I was for many years, you're welcome to discuss that after the lodge or whatever on your social media feeds, talk about it, but it shouldn't enter into Freemasonry itself. You know what else is gigantic? Metaphorically, the like and subscribe buttons, so hit those. Stephen Pickett, I mean, I know a little bit about Royal Arch Freemasonry. I worked for Stephen Harper. I was an intern in the Office of the Prime Minister. I know a little bit about Royal Arch Masonry. I'm not a Royal Arch Mason myself, but some of my good friends are. You could trace its origins, in my opinion, to 1737 and Andrew Raymond Chevalier out of France, who claimed that Freemasonry evolved from the Crusaders, which eventually came to mean the Knights Templars. But no, if you were, I would never get in because I'm very lazy about shaving. I do have to shave soon, though, because I have a wrestling show coming up, and I need to be nicely shaved for that. So, define Marianne, define so many secrets. I would say there's very few secrets within Freemasonry. The reason I maintain some of the secrets, although they're on the internet now anyways, is because, thank you for the stars, is because of the family recipe analogy, which I know I've used it many times. If you have a family recipe, the reason you don't share it with the public is not because there's anything bad in the family recipe. Rather, it's because maintaining the secrecy of that recipe or the privacy of that recipe maintains the bonds between past, present, and future generations of the family. Freemasonry is exactly the same. Thank you for the star, right? Which is to say, we pass down our ritual, we pass down our knowledge of the ritual. If I share that with the public, it limits the bonds between past, present, and future generations. I look forward to the epic beard. I mean, I believe in a higher power. I believe in a supreme being. I don't necessarily know what it means to say as a priority. The belief in a supreme being is an important part of what it means to be a Freemason. Stephen Pickett, my grandfather's part of the Royal Arch Masonry. Very cool. And thank you for the stars, Space Legume. That is incredibly kind of you. And absolutely, do you want to be the guy who ruins the family recipe after all this time? Is absolutely the thing to keep in mind and think about. And one more for the York boys. Hey, York is a great organization. I mean, again, I don't believe there was ever a literal, evolution from the Templars to Freemasonry, but certainly I think the Knights Templars, including De Molay, they had an excellent, their iconography, their symbolism, what they represent. It certainly provides a lot of incredibly valuable lessons that we can apply to Freemasonry. And they do that very well. Well, thank you. Des, please hit like and subscribe. Oh, I love Ottawa. Ottawa is such a cool city. I miss it so much. Um, we do not do that. No one really. Someone's been looking at a bunch of baloney on social media. But thank you for being here nonetheless, even though you are wrong about many things. All right, we're going to give it a bit more time, wait to see who joins. Please hit that like button, please hit that subscribe button. I hope you guys are doing well. And I hope to see you March 28th, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at the Windsor Masonic Temple for the Community Service Fair. I mean, that's tough to say because there was 13 out of the 39 signers of the Declaration of Independence were Freemasons, so the majority were not. And certainly it's not like you know, it's not like National Treasure where there's some secret Masonic treasure map on the back of it, although maybe if there was, I wouldn't say anything. I would say the most obvious kind of Masonic influence on the Declaration of Independence was the emphasis on democracy, right? Democracy as both an Enlightenment era principle and a Masonic principle is very well known. It's something I've talked about several times here on the stream in the past. I think you could argue that um, there are two great Enlightenment era experiments that still exist: America and Freemasonry. And the emphasis on democracy is something that influenced America. It's also something that influenced Freemasonry in general. We're a democratic institution. So, the idea of a civil religion or civil religiosity, religious tolerance, secular government, civic rules, civic order. Freemasonry is civic in its nature, right? So I suppose that would be what I would say. So, real M classic democracy would be the most obvious one to me. Democracy, democratic governance. The idea that it is through democracy that power can be properly. The idea that it is through democracy that power can be fairly or legitimately bestowed would be what I would say. So Emma B, first of all, please hit like and subscribe. Second, um, yeah, there is the Order of Women Freemasons, which is a wonderful organization. There's also Eastern Star. So yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's one of the major elements of democracy, right? The idea that it is the consent of the governed. So yes. I mean, that's why one of the reasons why Freemasonry is not and I've talked about this before, one of the reasons why Freemasonry is not a religion, or not a cult, excuse me, is because it's democratic in nature. Cults are not. The whole point of a cult is you do what you're told by the boss, by the governing body. You don't get a chance to have a say in it, right? So. But yeah, women can be Freemasons for sure. They have Order of Eastern Star as well, which is very, it's prominent here in Ontario, an excellent organization, excellent group, well worth checking out and supporting. Now, traditionally, it was always that to join Eastern Star, you had to be a woman who was related to a Freemason, mother, sister, wife, daughter. They've really relaxed those rules, to my understanding, in currently in 2026. Well, I mean, I don't know what the technical term is. I think just consent of the governed is the best term to have for it. It's one that makes the most sense to me. we're just going to hang out, wait to see who else joins. I'm going to mention again, March 28th, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Community Services Fair. I hope to see you guys there. It's going to be incredible. It's going to be a blast. I look forward to it. So yeah, I'm very excited. What is Nowruz? My friend is an Eastern Star. Never heard of that before. Persian New Year. Really? I did not know that. I mean, I've talked about Freemasonry and Persian history in the past. Um, so, marking the Persian New Year and spring equinox. Oh, wait, that was a couple days ago, wasn't it? I think I do remember seeing something about that on the Twitter machines. There is once again the Grand Lodge of Iran in exile. We should point that out as well. So, they're meeting presently in Los Angeles primarily. I really want to get somebody from the Grand Lodge of Iran in exile on the channel, but we have to keep in mind because Freemasonry is still looked, frowned upon, shall we say, in Iran or looked about with suspicion. My concern would be I wouldn't want them bringing any kind of flack onto their families. Well, I mean, there's a lot to go into that one. If he was stealing from the lodge, like you would think he would already be a member, in which case he wouldn't be blackballed, he would be suspended. If he was like stealing from the lodge, like I don't know what that would look like exactly. I mean, look, if anybody was caught stealing from the lodge, if they're a member or not a member, then obviously there should be legal consequences first and foremost. Police should be informed. There should be, repayments made. After that, I mean, you would hope not, because every Mason should understand that you don't judge. You take each man as he comes to you, and you don't judge them based on the father or at the family in general, right? You still do your due diligence. You ask them questions. That works the other way as well. Just because, for example, somebody has a really great Masonic career and their son wants to join, you should still treat them the same as everybody else and not give them, beneficial treatment. But human beings are human beings, so they are unfortunately still prone to the same biases that everybody else is. And that could mean that unfortunately they, have biases, and maybe they don't unfortunately want to give the benefit of the doubt. What I would say though is in that case it's up to the son or the person applying to join. It's up to him to demonstrate to his sponsors and demonstrate to the people that will be deciding whether he's joining Freemasonry or not. It will be up to them to be kind, to just do their best, explain what's going on, explain how they're different from their father, put in a good put in a good attitude, etc., etc., and then it's up to the lodge to go from there. So really, you control the controllable. You control how you present yourself. You control how you act. You control how you demonstrate that you're not like your father, and you go from there. And to be honest, it wouldn't even shock me if there was a time when somebody who was stealing from a lodge was suspended, spent time in custody, and then they themselves applied to join Freemasonry once again. If they've demonstrated that they've sufficiently changed, made steps to pay the lodge back, etc., etc. Well, if you do, I mean, if nobody knows that the guy, like they never met the guy before, they don't know the father-son relationship, then I guess it wouldn't be an issue at all. It's one of those things where, again, though, you control the controllable. That's all you can do. So, what that means is, as somebody applying to join the lodge, you make sure that you're putting your best foot forward. And if they're going to judge you based on your father or that the applicant's father, then so be it, right? You can't control that. Did Pavlov, like Pavlov of Pavlov's dog, the psychologist? I don't think he had any relation to Freemasonry. I mean, it wouldn't shock me if he was a Freemason, but I've never heard one way or the other. Pav. Thank you for the sparkles. I'm just checking if Pavel was a Freemason. I don't think he was. He was Soviet, right? So, yeah, if he was part of the Soviet Union, he wouldn't have been because Freemasonry is outlawed in the Soviet Union. What is Freemasonry besides a decentralized fraternal organization? I mean, when you say besides, oh, I believe he did. He was, I believe. Before he was deposed, right? So I know that Freemasonry was very popular in Iran before the Islamic Revolution. And Freemasonry was very popular during his reign. In fact, in 1969, the Grand Lodge of Iran was formed, and that was under the reign of Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, or Pahlavi. But I don't know if he himself was a Freemason. But certainly he was supportive of it in that Freemasonry grew pretty extensively while he was in office. I mean, I guess what I'd say is when you say what is Freemasonry aside from a decentralized fraternal organization, I mean, I'm not sure about the phrasing of that. To me, that's more than enough. Freemasonry being a decentralized fraternal organization. We need more decentralized fraternal organizations. Ideology, I mean, there is no, like the ideology of Freemasonry, again, the way I always describe it is imagine you're a football player, you're part of a football team. There's no quote unquote ideology to being a football player, but there is, right? Through the act of being a football player, you learn about the value of sportsmanship, teamwork, practice, physical health and fitness, responsibility, showing up on time. That's kind of the ideology of football. Freemasonry is the same way. There are lessons, ethical and ideological lessons imparted through the act of being a Freemason. When you say what things do we see today influenced by Freemasonry, I mean, Freemasonry was so ubiquitous, especially in the 1920s and 1950s. There are plenty of things that were influenced by Freemasonry, not controlled by, not directed by, but certainly Masonic influences contained therein. I would say the buildings are what represents primarily Masonic influence. The Detroit Masonic Temple has had hundreds, probably thousands of concerts and events and weddings. Same thing with the Windsor Masonic Temple. Philadelphia, you see it in the history, you see it in Enlightenment era philosophy still existing, the value of democracy. What's one piece of information? That's a good question, Kevin. You cannot transfer your Mother Lodge membership, MMT, because Mother Lodge is your Mother Lodge. It's the first lodge you joined. You would have to create a time machine, go back and join a different lodge. But you can demit from your Mother Lodge and affiliate with another one, and that would become kind of your sole lodge. Hello, Jeremy. Mozart was a Freemason. I mean, the one thing I wish I'd known is I don't know. I mean, in some ways, I love the journey of being a Freemason. Um, and the more you try to learn in advance about Freemasonry, the less of an experience it is because you end up going in with expectations as opposed to experiences, right? So in some ways, maybe I wish I'd known a little bit less. Well, so some dude, I don't think so, but I'd love to get there if I could. So some dude, when you say there's a reason, so lodge is actually the problem is, and I do this all the time, so I'm not knocking anybody. This is as much me as anybody else. The issue is how imprecise the language gets. Technically, a Masonic lodge is not a place. A Masonic lodge is a group of people. It's like a sports team, right? It's not a place, it's a team or it's a group of people. So when I'm talking about going to lodge, technically that doesn't actually mean anything. That would be like saying I'm going to the Miami Dolphins. I'm going to the um, Fulham soccer team. You can go to meet a group of people, or you can go to watch a group of people, but it's not an actual physical place. It references a group of people or a group of individuals. Now, having said that, within Freemasonry, the buildings in which we meet, they can colloquially be called temples. They can also be called um, Masonic halls, conference centers, spaces. It really all means the same thing, and it just references the place in which they meet. It's like the stadium. If the lodge is the team, the building is the stadium. It was originally very often called Masonic temples to reference King Solomon's temple and to reference not a religious connotation, but simply a place of gathering and of importance. But because it has a religious connotation for many people, what we are seeing more and more often is Freemasons stepping away from that term and calling their buildings halls, conference centers, places like that. But very often, people will say, for example, I'm going to the Masonic Temple, or going to the Masonic Lodge. What they mean is they're going to their meeting place to meet with their Masonic Lodge. Hey, the friends we made along the way are very important as well. Yeah, and that's because it's often just I say that as well. I'm going to lodge, but you don't really mean you're going to lodge. You mean you're going to the place where your lodge meets. Um, I got a bunch of tattoos. I don't know if I can actually. It's hard to get the good angle. I've got these on social media, so you can follow me there to see them. So our lodge is called the Windsor Masonic Temple. That's where we meet. There is a ballroom therein as well. So do I know anything about the Moose fraternity? I know a little bit about the Moose fraternity. In fact, sorry, real classic. We're having an event at the Masonic Ballroom um, tonight. Or sorry, we're having an event at the Masonic Ballroom March 28th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And I really hope you guys will join. And it's going to be a blast. I look forward to it very much. Oh, the Windsor Masonic Temple, it's a very popular building, very important building within Windsor, within Essex County. I'm grateful to be able to meet there. There is beautiful, absolutely. It's a beautiful building. It's an incredible building. I'm grateful to be a part of it. It depends. So the ballroom right now is through a group called Temple Blooms, which is putting on productions, plays, celebrations. It's pretty incredible. They do a great job. There's just an event there last night, which I thought was really, really cool. So the way that it works. What you're referring to, real M classic, is the idea of recognition and regularity. So what that means is there's nothing stopping me, Cameron Adamson, from putting a sign outside my door that says, "This is Cameron Adamson's Masonic Lodge," and saying I'm going to have Masonic meetings, whatever, invite people to come out, create my own rituals, call them Masonic rituals. I can do that if I want. At worst, what I might face is trademark infringement for using a square and compass. But the way that that is controlled is the Grand Lodge will come up and say, okay, that is not a recognized Masonic lodge. If you join it, you are not a Mason. The way that regularity is defined, which basically means, are you compliant with this centralized idea of what Freemasonry is? Usually they look at, do you have a volume of sacred law? Do you believe in a supreme being of some sort? Or is there a belief in a supreme being to become a Mason? What that supreme being is not specified. It's just one. And following the ancient landmarks. There's also the idea of sovereignty. So, for example, if a Masonic lodges in another state, another country, start to do some stuff that's not cool, get engaged in criminal activities, for example, like they say about P2, then the different Masonic lodges will get together and say, okay, we are going to not recognize them anymore. They're not regular. They're involved in criminal activities. They're denying admission based on wrong factors, whatever it might be, and they will remove recognition. That doesn't stop the group from existing. That doesn't even stop the group from calling itself Masonic necessarily. What it does, however, is it stops other Masons from being able to officially visit them. And recognition is a really important part of Freemasonry. Whenever you're traveling, it's incredibly important that you spend at least a few minutes knowing if where you're traveling to has recognized Masonic lodges or non-recognized Masonic lodges. I mean, splinter groups would usually be called clandestine groups. I mean, the Grand Orient is probably the biggest splinter/clandestine group. It's not recognized by many jurisdictions, but it's still really, really cool. It's still a really, I'm not one of those people who gets upset about clandestine groups, even the Grand Orient. It's just they have their way of doing Freemasonry and we have ours. It is one of the interesting things about Freemasonry, but what I would say real M classic is the term supreme being is so broadly defined. A lot of people might consider me to be an atheist, even though I wouldn't, but a lot of people might consider me to be an atheist, so. I will never claim to believe in anything. I mean, I don't know. I think human beings are pretty good at thinking in abstract terms. That's one of our greatest strengths. And very often, to abstract something means you cannot conceptualize it except through metaphor or symbolism of some sort, right? Chance Vino, please hit like and subscribe. People always say that. That's not been my experience. And it's not even in the American Revolution, right? There were Freemason involved in it. But that doesn't mean it was a Masonic revolution. So at least 320 or 24% of the 1,336 delegates to the Estates General in 1789 were believed to be Freemasons. So that's 1/4, right? So I'd certainly Freemasonry, and again, its emphasis on democracy is going to influence, for example, anti-monarchical revolutions. But Freemasonry also teaches people to be compliant with the laws and the rules of the country in which they live. So I think I'm somewhat on Catman's side on this. I think, like, when I say, my supreme being is the geometric nature of the universe, that doesn't mean, for example, that I believe that that doesn't mean that I believe, for example, there's a supreme being of the Pythagorean theorem that somehow has taken human form. Rather, it's an abstraction because I don't know if I can truly conceptualize what that means. It's simply my best metaphor for describing it. I mean, I suppose what I would say real M is I always tell this to people. If you have your beliefs, but you don't quite know if they count as a supreme being or not, there's nothing stopping you from approaching the lodge, expressing those beliefs, and going from there and seeing what happens. Right? Because I think the danger is you don't want to prejudge. So you believe in something, you don't quite know what it is or how to describe it. Hey, no worries. Go and talk to the lodge anyways. Explain what you believe. Proceed from there. And for the time being, we're going to wait, see who joins. Please hit like and subscribe. We're 2 subs away from 3,760 subs. I'll try to meet the Moose Lodge people. Hey, Moose Lodge is great. I mean, it's not a Masonic organization, but it's still an awesome organization. And by all means, check them out. I don't know if they have the same rules that I do, that Freemasonry does. I don't believe you need to believe in a supreme being to be a Moose member. I can't. I have no feet. I'm missing my legs. Says, because Bob Walker not walking said, show us your feet. So Crowley, more than likely, was not a legitimate Mason. He was more than likely a clandestine Mason. Apparently, he once joined a lodge in like France or in Mexico that we don't have any proof of. Thelema, I mean, I don't believe in the supernatural. To my knowledge, Thelema is a kind of mysticism, which is not something I'm one to necessarily believe in, or at least it's more of a spiritual philosophy, is how they describe it on Google. I don't like mysticism or spirituality as a general rule, even within Freemasonry. Some people find Freemasonry to be a spiritual endeavor, but I've never been one of them myself. Well, so Moose Lodge is a separate organization. It's also a fraternity, to my knowledge. It's also a civic organization, but they're a great group of guys. I know a lot of Moose individuals. They're awesome. And yeah, I think that's very cool. By all means, I would encourage you. I think the most important thing is civic institutions in general, period. So whether it's the Moose, the Elks, Freemasonry, take a look at it, consider it. It's going to be incredibly valuable to do so, or to check out, I should say. Widow's Sons. Widow's Sons is some places a part of Freemasonry and some places not so much, but it's a really cool organization. It's basically a Masonic, you can think of it as a bikers club for Freemasons. So, yeah, and they're a great group. They do a ton of charity work, ton of charitable work. They're a really awesome organization. I've been lucky enough to know a lot of Widow's Sons over the years. I think they're all awesome. I mean, I'm not an elk, so I'm not the best person to say, but to my knowledge, whether it be the elk, the moose, the Freemasons, certainly, even Knights of Columbus, if you're Catholic, really the first step has to come from you, has to come from you approaching them and expressing your interest. Yeah, and good for them, right? I hope they keep on trying and keep on working. I mean, I would say, look, what is and isn't spiritual tends to become a very personal thing, right? So it's not the type of thing where I think necessarily you can say with any certainty, like some people find music spiritual, some people find movies to be a spiritual experience. Some people may find Freemasonry to be a spiritual experience. I don't like to think in those terms, but certainly people may feel that way. Um, did you press the like button is a better question. I would say for me personally though, what matters more is if you find Freemasonry spiritual, just understand that spirituality does not imply it is also a religion, right? You need to understand and separate those two things. It's incredibly important. Lions is fraternal, I believe. Yeah, right. Lions is absolutely I mean, again, I believe I'm not a lion either, so I could be getting that mistaken. But I would say I hope you check it out. And look, civic institutions are so important. You look back to bowling alone, right? The biggest concern I think that we have, that I have at least, is the danger of civic institutions dying out, unfortunately. I think it's really scary. So I think that that causes a lot of significant danger to our societies, to our health, to our well-being. So yeah, I am not an alpha male. I hate those terms. I think they're all dumb. Don't worry about being an alpha, being a beta, being a sigma. Just be a good person. Just try your best to be a good person. That should be enough, right? I always find those terms dumb, because I think that I can't imagine all the men that I've admired in my life, like whether it be my father or my grandfather or people in Freemasonry or people without a Freemasonry. I can't imagine any of them describing themselves as Freemasons. Sorry, describing themselves as alpha men. And if a Freemason were to come to me and say he's an alpha male because he's a Freemason, I would roll my eyes. Well, it definitely did, but the wisdom is not esoteric. It's the manner through which they're passed down that's esoteric, right? That's the thing you need to keep in mind and remember. So the wisdom from Freemasonry is not esoteric, but the methods by which it's taught or passed down are. That's the way I always want to differentiate it. Then, I mean, good for them. I'm worried about it. Now, look, it's not the main issue. There are many issues, and if our entire focus becomes we want to get membership and that's the end of it, that is a very concerning attitude because it's not enough to simply get members. We need to get members and want them to be active and want them to take part, and want them to enjoy it, right? I have no interest in a lodge of 500 members if no one really cares about showing up. But by the same token, there's a point at which you simply cannot make it without a sufficient number of membership. It's just not going to be able to fund itself. I'm not, I'm sure I like the United Kingdom. It's a wonderful country. I was just there a couple months ago. It was beautiful. Very friendly people, very cool people. I was grateful. I didn't see any Masonic symbols I didn't see any Masonic symbols at the Oscars Blissful. Not that I watched the whole thing, but all the clips I saw, there were no Masonic symbols. So I don't know what you're talking about. So long as it's recognized, yes, that's one of the best things about being a Freemason by far is the fact that you're able to travel and visit Masonic lodges around the world. I'm grateful for that. Some of my fondest memories by a mile have been visiting lodges around the world. I'm grateful for that. I've talked about it a lot, especially on Medium. I've written about my Masonic travels and how much I enjoy them. Well, Chief, please hit like, please hit subscribe before you write an essay on my forehead. Canada owns Canada. No one else owns Canada. That includes no one, that includes America, by the way. We're going to give it a bit of time. We're going to see who else joins. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I hope you're all doing well. As always, hit like, hit subscribe. I am, notwithstanding an act of parliament. It means, basically, to my recollection of it, it means we within Freemasonry, geez, we in the Canadian Parliament, if you are part of the Parliament, can override the decisions of the Supreme Court to pass a law. So Canada still has a monarchy. Technically, King Charles is both the King of England and the King of Canada. We have a Governor General who represents the monarchy. I'm actually a pro-monarchist and also pro-democracy. You can be both, but there you go. Indigenous land. I mean, it was indigenous land first, without question. And certainly the way that the land was taken by the current political system is not a proud moment of Canadian history. Having said that, I've said it before, it's possible to have two different opinions at the same time, or two different views or philosophies. Being I'm grateful that Canada exists. I'm grateful for everything it's provided to me. I'm grateful to be Canadian, but I am also well aware that there were many atrocities committed in the creation of this country. And how you square those two things, I guess everybody can decide for themselves. Chief, please hit like and subscribe. Eric, please hit like and subscribe. What's your take on globalism? Well, I mean, those are two different ideas. Look, I like to think of myself as a Canadian first and a Freemason second, but I also like to remember that within Canada, within the world, I have brothers everywhere, and I should view them as brothers and look beyond any narrow limits. Here's what I think. I think every country has the right to a border, has the right to not even defend that border per se, just administer that border as they see fit based on who they think should be in and not in the country. But I also think that individuals should absolutely have the right to sell their goods, sell their services around the world. They should not be limited to a customer base based on artificial constraints set by governments. So I guess from a trade perspective and a services perspective, I'm a fan of globalism. And I think I want to see more people moving around. I don't want an attitude where every country views itself as an island and cares exclusively for its own needs without thinking about anybody else. Because that's how you get a bunch of fiefdoms. And once you start to get a bunch of fiefdoms with no concern for others, that is when you get some really scary situations happening. I showed the cat. I took a picture of the cat. He's on it's on my or is my cat? It's on my feed. It's on my community page. You can find it there. Well, I think there's something very right wing about that idea, and I'm not knocking it because I'm a right winger and I kind of agree with it. The more local the government is to the individual, the more the more power it should have over you. So, in terms of who has the most power or influence or ability to control your actions, I think it should be at the city level first, then less so at the province, then even less so at the state level, because the state is the furthest away, if you want to view it that way, from the individual, and also has the least amount of effect. If you want to know what truly impacts people's lives day to day, it's potholes, it's traffic signals, it's property taxes, it's education. All of that stuff is decided at the local level, right? If I can find him, I got to go track the cat down. I don't know where the cat is at the moment. Well, I mean, I definitely disagree with that, Chief Keel, and that's one of the things I love about Freemasonry. I can tell you, you can be in a Masonic lodge, you can have a Muslim, Christian, Hindu, Sikh, Jewish, First Nations, spiritual like me. You can have a liberal, conservative, and we can all work together for a common good while believing different things. That's one of the things that growing up, I was always kind of taught in school sometimes explicitly, sometimes implicitly, that within that within Canada, it's not, you can be a Canadian and be of a different race, different religion, you can have different political beliefs, but you can still work together for a common good. So, hello, Alamo. Welcome. Thank you for being here. I hope you're doing well. Please hit like and subscribe. Adam, Alamo City, I mean, they may be irrelevant to you, but they're not irrelevant to me because I'm here and I love talking about Freemasonry. So, how irrelevant could it be? 90s was pretty great. I was born 83, so I have very fond memories of the 90s. I would say for me it was the 2000s that I loved the most, especially 2005 to 2010. That was quite fun. When I was in Edinburgh, no, I wish I did, but I did not get the chance. I mean, you're not wrong, Real Classic. That is a big problem, which is you have non-local stores coming in, putting people out of business. Now, look, big businesses, and again, my more conservative side of me, Freemasonry is not conservative. I'm just speaking for myself. It's always going to say if any group comes in and brings in a whole bunch of jobs, more power to them. But you have to balance that out with the danger it has on local industry. But within Freemasonry, we absolutely have the ability to influence that, right? We can choose, for example, when we're organizing events, when we're organizing celebrations, we can absolutely choose to use local businesses, local restaurants. So the 2000s was the best generation for gaming. I mean, it was, but maybe if we in Freemasonry can work hard, we can help turn some of these things around by promoting civic engagement, which promotes local services. Brad Paisley, Alamo City Cello, Shaquille O'Neal. I mean, define prominent. One of the issues is I don't know what you mean by prominent, but I'd say those two. I'm 42, born in 83. I'm an old man. And that's the biggest challenge you have in life, right? Trying to balance out the success for the cost and the benefits of anything, and that includes bringing in things like Walmart. I'm not a boomer. I'm a Xennial, Xenniel, which is the generation that was between Gen X, which was born in like 78, to which was ended in 78, to millennial, which came around in like 84. So that is considered the difference between my generation. Well, I mean, I can't speak for what happened. I didn't hear about that, or I don't have any details on that. Obviously, I'm from Canada. I hope that there were no hard feelings between the Masons and the Philharmonic. Maybe it was a matter of rent increase, or who knows what the issue was. But I mean, Masonic buildings. Now I was born in 83, right? Masonic buildings are 1990. Okay, you're 1990. All right. Masonic buildings, they have to operate as buildings. They have to earn, enough money to pay property taxes, things of that nature. So because of that, yeah, it could be that they have to raise rents or change rents or get new tenants in. I can't speak for the specifics of it, but I always hope as much as possible Freemasons can support local arts. I'm really proud of the Windsor Masonic Temple for all of the support it's provided, for all of the art space for artists to display their work. I think that's really, really cool. Early retirement. I mean, it sounds like you've earned early retirement, uh, but I don't know if you're going to get it or not. Well, if you're saying people who are prominent, like who are prominently celebrating Freemasonry, I would say Shaquille O'Neal has actually been a pretty decent job at showing it off. He is very often pictured showing off his Masonic ring. Brad Paisley, not so much, though there are a few videos of him talking about it and supporting it. But if I'm a prominent Mason, why can't I be a prominent Freemason? Um, the Masons, operative Masons, absolutely work with stone, and they do an incredible job with it. I wish personally I could say that I was talented in that field. I'm speculative. I'm waving the Masonic flag. But I mean, Freemasonry is not ubiquitous, so most celebrities aren't Freemasons, right? So even people who are waving the Masonic flag, if they're not rich, famous, powerful, who's going to be that concerned with it, right? Maybe I can become rich, famous, and powerful because I'm a Freemason one day. That's kind of what the purpose of this channel is, but I'm working on it. So that is called, we're discussing is Prince Hall Freemasonry. It's unfortunate, but the prejudices of a community can absolutely impact Freemasonry. It's unfortunate. Freemasons should be better. They should not discriminate, but it has happened. Thankfully, Prince Hall was formed to provide a space for Black men to go if they wanted to be part of Freemasonry. And I think that's wonderful. It's an excellent group. I'm grateful for the existence of I'm grateful for the existence of Prince Hall Freemasonry, as we should all be. Thank you, Real M Classic. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. No, because Freemasonry is not taxed in the same way churches are, or not taxed. Freemasonry, to my knowledge, is not considered a religion in any place, any organization. Is it a service animal? Because if it's a service animal, then they should. What I would suggest is you remind them of the rules and regulations around service animals within your jurisdiction. So if it's not a service animal, then yeah, they don't have to let the animal in. It is not a racist organization. There may be racist individuals within Freemasonry. That's unfortunate, but that happens. But Freemasonry is not racist. In fact, Freemasonry encourages universal tolerance, respect, and kindness. Braden, every Freemason believes something different. There is no like Masonic belief there because it's not a religion. I would say, though, at the fundamental level, the belief of Freemasonry is the belief that the world can be made better through the application of brotherly love, relief, and truth, which is something I think is wonderful. So there you go. Freemason, and some would say the goal of Freemasonry is to make good men better, but I find that too slogan-ish. The Bible is not used everywhere. Sometimes it's a Quran. I've seen eagle feathers used. I've heard of gems being used for Wiccan members. But there is a requirement of a volume of the sacred law to be used within Freemasonry. The reason is because within Freemasonry there are obligations that you take. It's no different than in not a church, in a court of law. When you're taking an obligation, taking it on a volume of the sacred law is a way to remind you of kind of the obligation that you're taking, and it's a way to speak to your heart what you're taking. So there you go. All right. Thank you, Bulba. I look forward to seeing you on March 28th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. That's not a bad way to think about it, Braden. Yeah, I would say it's a civic institution for men. You can use Boy Scouts as a comparison. I think that works. Um, but there's also Freemasonry for women as well, right? There's the Order of Women Freemasons. Um, there's the Order of Women Freemasons. There's Eastern Star as well. I mean, I don't know if Masons support the status quo or not. Certainly, we support compliance with laws of the country in which you live, but that's not the same thing as quote unquote supporting the status quo. I think we certainly will try, if nothing else, to make sure people can live as comfortably as possible within the status quo by providing charity, assistance, help, if and when and where we can to them. Now, if the issue becomes, that the status quo needs to be changed, well, that's a political question, and the politicians need to deal with it. Or you can be a Mason and then run for politics, but you need to keep those two things separate somewhat. Yeah, I mean, I've never been a scout, so I can't speak too much about it, but I always had this idea for a movie called Freemasons versus Zombies. It was based on Scouts' Guide to Surviving the Zombie Apocalypse, which is a movie I really like. So maybe one day that's what I'll check out. If I ever get myself able to write this script. And Braden, thank you for being here. If you're new to the stream, Braden, please hit like. Please hit subscribe. I would be grateful. I hope you're doing well. And how is your day treating you? I mean, I'm sorry that that happened. Um, that your father's family never did anything for you. It always sucks when you're dealing with kind of family challenges, and I'm really sorry about that. But the fact they didn't do anything for you has nothing to do with them being or not being Freemasons, right? That just happens to be maybe family dynamic. Being a Freemason doesn't make you perfect by any means, despite what maybe some would like it to think otherwise. Nice. Well, Freemasonry supports the Scouts. There's really cool connections historically between Freemasonry and Scouting. Scouting was brought to America by a Freemason, if I recall correctly. So, yeah, it absolutely is the case that Freemasonry and Scouting have a really cool connection and a really cool history. I do not know what that means. I mean, I'm not really on TikTok. I have an account. I've done one video on TikTok. Maybe I should do more. Um, in some ways, I mean, although Freemasons have gone on camping trips and celebrated outdoors, in fairness, um, but I have done many things on TikTok. Well, I shouldn't say many. I've been on TikTok. I keep debating whether I want to go back onto TikTok or not. I haven't been able to decide yet. I'm just too concerned about the political climate. It feels like any given day TikTok is being sold or banned in America, then it comes back. Um, Thank you so much, Jason. That's incredibly kind of you. I gotta send out some stuff, so I'll get you your coin as soon as I possibly can. Masons are not progressive. I mean, I'm not sure what that means. I would say that Freemasonry can be progressive. If you mean progressive in a political sense, then maybe. Like, there are times historically when people would have said Freemasonry is progressive. There are times when people would have said Freemasonry is conservative. Freemasonry is apolitical, which means it can at times be progressive, it can at times be conservative. It's really going to depend primarily on the makeup of the membership. If you have a lodge with more conservative members, it's going to at least appear somewhat more conservative, even though within the lodge itself, there's no discussion of politics or religion. That's kind of just the nature of the beast, right? I've been a Freemason, Patrick, for just about 20 years, and it is insane to think it's been that long. I joined Freemasonry in 2007. I cannot believe how much time flies. So am I liberal? Trump 2028. I mean, I was conservative for most of my political career. I voted for Mark Carney, so I am definitely not conservative anymore. But again, that's me and my personal opinion. That doesn't reflect Freemasonry. Tomato, tomato, indeed. I mean, like at the end of the day, I think it really is a fool's errand. I've talked about this before. It really is kind of a fool's errand to try and argue that Freemasonry has a specific religious kind of bent outside of pro-democracy. And so, if you want to say pro-democracy is more liberal or conservative, I guess you can view it that way. But in terms of, taxation policy, whatever it is, I mean, Freemasonry, some Freemasons are going to be pro higher taxes, some are going to be pro lower taxes. It all just depends. Again, if they couldn't draw the numbers, I mean, the buildings themselves have to be able to pay their rent, pay their property taxes. They have to be able to be self-funded. But I know many Masonic buildings, including the Windsor Masonic Temple in Windsor, that has done a ton to support the arts, and I'm grateful for everything that they've done. So, time absolutely flows very quickly. The Masons are very family oriented. The Masons, in fact, encourage you to focus on your family first, then your work, then Freemasonry. Or in some cases, it's your religion first, then your family, then your work, then Freemasonry. The Masons are not self-serving. Yes, oh my gosh, I would have been 24 in 2007. So time absolutely flies. It's crazy to think about how much. Donald Trump is not a Freemason. At least there's no evidence I've ever seen that he is. All right, I think we're going to end this stream now. It is now 3 o'clock. I will be back on tonight at 1 a.m. We're going to be doing an unboxing of the really cool items I got from I Can Talk, from the Masonic Medical Research Institute, which I very much look forward to. All right, guys, I'll talk to you soon. Thank you all for being here. Hit that like button and hit that subscribe button.